Bonnie Harris. Bonnie, welcome to Empowered Kids TV.
Thank you, Nicole. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
It's been wonderful to dive deep into your work. Many times when we get our buttons pushed as parents, a lot of parents will admit that we end up being the type of parent we swore we would never be and saying the types of things that we swore to ourselves we would never say to our kids. So I wanted to start there by asking, what is happening when we get our buttons pushed that prevents us from being calm and in control?
Oh boy, if we all could put our finger on that, wouldn't the world be a better place? So what happens, there's something emotional that we all understand, and that is that we just get triggered and we make all these assumptions about what's going on, what our child is doing to us, what a failure as a parent that I have been to not teach my child to behave better. We just get spinning and spiraling in our own heads. What happens biologically, if that's the right reference, is that the amygdala in our limbic system, which is the emotional storehouse of our brain. It's the most primitive part of our brain, and it's where the fight, flight, or freeze instinct lives. And that amygdala, which has stored all of our emotional memories, gets triggered by something that our child is doing or saying that takes us on some level to an emotional memory from our childhoods, and we actually behave in the real moment as if we were back at that moment in our childhoods. So the trigger is not only, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing and saying this, but it really has brain ramifications, and it's something that happens biologically to all of us. And depending on what is in our background, depending on what kind of messages we learned about ourselves in our childhood, that is to the degree that we get triggered by our child. So just a very simple, for instance, if I was told as a child in so many different ways that I was stupid, from a parent, from a teacher, from a sibling, maybe my father, I worked with one parent whose father just had a habit of offhandedly saying, "What are you, stupid or something?" And so that works in there, right? So I may have believed that I was indeed stupid. And so then when I get to a point in my adulthood where I have a child who's yelling at me, "You're so stupid," boy, I'm going to explode, right? Whereas another parent wouldn't be triggered by that at all, right? So it's what our individual experience is in our childhood.
So what I hear is a real shift in mindset. So for many parents, it's, my kids are driving me insane. And really it feels like it's what they're doing that's making me feel this level of frustration.
Yes.
But what you're saying is that what they're doing is almost like opening a box of a memory of how we felt before.
Right. What they're doing is just being kids and just trying to get what they want when they want it, right? That's their job.
Which is exactly what we're doing.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so when we think that this is my child making me so angry, my child is, it's because of my child that I have to scream, that I have to yell, that I have to spank, we're completely turned around. Because when I say things like, why do I always have to yell 10 times to get you to listen to me? What I'm saying is you, my child, are responsible for my behavior. When I say, you make me so mad, what I'm saying is you, my child, are responsible for my feelings. And sadly, so many of us were brought up that way. And that's the message that the child gets from, and I call it irresponsible language from a parent. You know, we as little children get the message that it's my fault that my mother is screaming. It's my fault that my father just spanked me. It's my fault. And we may not be conscious of that, but that's the sort of thing that gets triggered when our children are behaving in ways that aren't doing exactly what we say. And what I hear from parents all the time is, my child won't listen to me. And I say, well, they won't listen because they don't like what they're hearing.
I want to dig deeper into that, because I think for many parents, it is almost like a matter of fact. Of course it's them. If they wouldn't behave like that, I wouldn't feel like this. So clearly it is them. And you talk a lot about the fact that in that process of watching what our kids are doing, or in some cases doing, to all the way where we react, there's a few things in the middle of that. And you talk a lot about our assumptions and our thought patterns. Can we just touch on how that might be actually influencing how we feel?
Yes, that is the key. So our child behaves in a certain way, right? My son throws something in anger across the room. I get furious because he's not behaving right. He's not behaving appropriately. And that fury, that rage in me, that anger, that frustration, that impatience causes me to react. I yell at him, I punish him, I do whatever I'm going to do. So we, exactly as you say, think it's my child that is the catalyst of this. It's my child that's making me yell at him. It's my child's fault that I'm punishing him. But what comes before our emotion is our thought. We do not feel without our thoughts. So that's what I call our assumptions. We make assumptions about our child. He's out of control. I can't ever get him to listen to me. What is wrong with him? Here we go again. Why is he so violent? Why is he so crazy? And assumptions about ourselves. What's wrong with me that I haven't been able to teach him to do what I tell him to do? I should never have been a parent. I'm a total failure, right? These are the assumptions we make that necessarily lead us to feel hopeless, despair. Frustration is the least of it. Just enraged, furious, right? So the assumptions are our thoughts, our ideas, our judgments, our criticisms, our fears. And underneath all anger is fear. I'm afraid that I'm doing a terrible job as a parent. I'm afraid my child is never going to be a decent human being. I'm afraid he's going to end up in jail by the time he's 15, right? That's Those are our catastrophizing fears.
Yeah.
So it's all that. That is the culprit. What's inside our own head. And what I know, people hear all the time, you can't control somebody else. You can't control what's outside of you. You can't control your children, even, much as we try. What we can control is ourselves.
Mm.
So the good news about all this is the key is within us. The key is inside our own heads and inside our whole mindset. So we can control that. We can change or reframe our thinking. So a neuroscientist has said that even though the amygdala, which never changes, aside from the rest of our brain that's very plastic, the amygdala stores those memories, they never go away. But the good news is that we can, in the present day, use our thinking brain, our cortex, to take different pictures of those memories. So the thing that we've got to realize is that those memories, those emotional memories that we're storing in there, were stored by a very, very immature child's brain, right? So that child who was once us has a perception of what's going on around her. That perception tells me I'm stupid, I don't know enough, I'm at fault. That gets stored in there as the truth. We remember it as the truth. But if we really examine it and do this work, we can use our cortex. We can look at it and say, oh, that's because my mother or father or teacher or whoever it was just trying to get me to behave, was just trying to get me to understand, was just trying to protect me. They were doing the best they could given the resources they had at the time. It was me as a little child that believed what I did. That's not real. So I can look at the situation and see it with my adult brain completely differently. And we don't all need to go through all of that work, but when we do, when we understand this, our mindset shift does a 180-degree turn and everything is different.
You know what I found in the beginning of this journey for myself? I would have said to someone, I don't even hear those thoughts. I don't even see those thoughts.
We don't. We don't at all. We don't even know they're there.
No.
Don't even know they're there.
And when I get triggered, I feel the reason I think it's my kids' fault is because I didn't even hear myself think. I just moved from watching what they were doing to feeling that motivation bubbling up inside of me. But I think over time, as I paid more attention and I brought some consciousness to it, I could hear the tail end of some of the things that I heard when I was a child. Like, how dare you speak to me that way? Or who do you think you're talking to like that? Yes.
Yes.
And so and that just pulls me back to myself, and I realize I'm having a ramble before I react.
That's right. That's right. And there's a huge, I hope, worldwide movement on mindfulness. And mindfulness is all about coming into the present moment, right? And in that present moment, if you can drop into that present moment, you can think about the power struggle that just happened with your child and the rage that you felt, the resentment that you felt, the guilt that you felt, and the reaction you had, And you can actually say, if I felt that way, what must I have been thinking? So you back it up, because the thought is not, we're not aware of the thoughts at all. So when my big epiphany moment was with my daughter, my button pusher, and I was in power struggles with her every morning of preschool, when she would fight me so hard, getting up in the morning, getting dressed. She had this lip that just, and it was just this, I don't want to go to school and you can't make me. I wanted to just take a knife and slice it right off. It lasted for about 3 years. It was sticking out like that. And every morning, and this all kind of came in hindsight, how I reacted to her was with anger and pressure and frustration and just total impatience, and we'd get into these power struggles. And one morning, I'd been doing a lot of reading on temperament, and I was teaching at this point. I was teaching parents how to better communicate with their children, and I'm home screaming at my daughter. So I this one morning, absolutely, this is why I know for sure that it has nothing to do with our children, other than the fact that they're the catalyst, but nothing changed from her. Same angry looks, same lip sticking out, same everything. But I said to myself, wait a minute, she's not out to get me. She's miserable. So she's out to get me was the assumption that I had been making every single morning. She's doing this on purpose. She's doing this to get me, right? We think that all the time. And I did this flip, and I thought, wait a minute, she's not out to get me. She's miserable. And my head did a 180-degree turn, and I never looked back. It was the change that it was monumental, and it meant a completely different relationship that I had with her. And it's been great ever since. I mean, certainly she was so intense, she was just pushing me all the time. But I understood her now. I got it. I didn't take it personally anymore. And so I could help her.